Welcome one, welcome all, welcome everyone, and welcome into the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and with me, as per usual, is a man who knows why he's here, and he is always down to spin me around. It's Aaron, everyone. Give it up for him.
Thank you.
Aaron, how the heck are you today, my man?
I am doing great. It's another day above ground, so I got nothing to complain about.
Hashtag blessed. That's good to hear, man. Anything you want to say to the people today?
Let's get it going, man. We're back in the saddle. We are back in the saddle.
Back in the saddle today. Isn't that an Aerosmith song?
Something like that.
Something like that. Anyways, today on the show, for all you listeners out there, we are going to be continuing our discussion on children's culture as we talk about some of the everyday issues our children are facing. So you know what to do right now. You need to pull up a chair, grab your juice box, grab a snack, and let's talk. You know why you're here. I know why I'm here. We know why our live studio audience is here, and we love them. They are the absolute best in the business. And before we get into it today, let's take a moment and thank our audience for over 10,000 downloads, listens on this podcast, along with, close to 500 5-star reviews on Spotify and over 100 5-star reviews on Apple. So let's just take a moment and say thank you to our amazing audience for all of it. Super grateful for you guys.
You guys are the reason, man. Without you, we have no purpose.
Zero whatsoever. All right, man, I got it. Let's jump in. Feet first, into the deep end, head first, arm first, whatever. Why is there so much pressure put on our kids in school today?
It's like we said last episode, it's just a lot of, high expectations and, with the times that we're living through now, things are changing at a very rapid rate, and, children's culture, our expectation of children is just so high, and it's sad and it's a good thing at the same time, though. I mean, they're held at such a high standard. It's hard to be a kid.
Dude, it's stupid hard to be a kid because there's so many things. Let's look at one here. The stress to pass classes. That one is at the forefront. I mean, even at kindergarten, there's an expectation to pass and do homework and meet these standards and goals. It's like they're 5. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, the curriculum nowadays, by the way, my daughter's in the 1st grade. I definitely feel like it's not the 1st grade I went through. That's for sure.
Yeah, dude. The kindergarten, yes. 1st grade, not there yet, but like I don't remember doing AR testing in kindergarten. I don't remember doing AR testing until like 3rd, 4th grade. And AR testing is like when you read a book and then you take like a little quiz on the computer and you earn points and stuff. Like that was awesome back in the day. That was so much fun. Like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Like I killed it at my school. I had all the little dog tags and everything. It was the best. But now in kindergarten, I don't remember doing it that young.
Yeah, dude, no, it's I'm not sure if it's particularly a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, to make our kids strive for more, but with that bigger workload, we are introducing a bigger stress to the kids. And it's like, how can you find time to be a kid and just have fun when you're too busy focused on, trying to make good marks or trying to make the next level of reading or math or whatever. I get it. We have to push our kids harder, but to an extent.
Yeah, definitely to an extent, man. Because with that, there comes this expectation and then this fear of failing to keep up with the learning. Like they're afraid to fall behind because they just feel like once they fall behind that they're not going to catch up. Like if it's not done and they don't stay ahead of it and they don't stay with it, they probably hear it at school all the time to where, if you miss this much, you're going to fall behind. It's going to be really hard for you to make it up. I don't remember how many times I heard that growing up in school.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing. I think it's something that's needed, but this early, I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure my first grader should be worried about, the test that she has coming up and be, devilishly afraid of it. It's crazy.
Yeah, man, because like, why are we making kids afraid of failure so early? Like, yes, failure should be something you're afraid of to an extent, but it really should be something that you embrace. Because without failure, you don't learn. Like your kids have to be okay to fail. Like it's okay if they fail a test. It's okay if they don't do everything perfect. Who cares if they bring home if they're in elementary school, middle school, and even high school nowadays, really, to a certain extent, you know, who cares if they bring home A minus or a B plus, They still tried really freaking hard.
Yeah, I'm definitely a proponent for, grades not that they don't matter, but you shouldn't base your life or how you treat your
They
kid
shouldn't
around.
define. Yeah, they shouldn't be the definition.
Yeah, like, and I struggled with that as a kid. Like, I would bring home like average remarks, like C's. Sometimes slack off once I got older, like D's, F's. But it's just because I didn't like the stress of it all, and like with the subjects that I didn't want to learn about, I could never get into it. And so I was always doing bad in school. And then once I got to like high school, I was able to meet some great teachers, and they really helped me shift my focus and learn that, you know, um, school is important. You have to go through it. It's something that sucks, but you have to go through it. Um, Also, coaches encouraging
100%.
classroom. That's huge. I mean,
That's
I
yeah,
can't
that's
I
yeah.
can't express to you how much that changed my life.
Oh, 100%. And it's really weird that you talk about, bringing home like average, below average remarks because for me, I'm not trying to brag here or anything, but I always brought home like above average grades. Like I always brought home B's and A's. Like high school, I was a 4.0 student. Before that, it was always a satisfactory pass, positive remarks, 100%, 90%, 85 plus percent. It was always those high grades, like for myself, to the point where I only got those good grades because school was so freaking easy. Like the work was easy, the work wasn't challenging, and it was to the point where it's like I knew if I just did it and got it done and out of the way, I would have all this time back to me to like play and do whatever I wanted, you know? And that's even how it is now. Like with my daughter, my one that's in kindergarten, she just knocks out her homework an hour on Mondays, her little packet hour on Mondays, doesn't think about it for the rest of the week, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
you did it already? She's like, yeah, I'm done. To the point where it's like she has like little workbooks that she does for like kindergarten and then whatnot. Those workbooks are done in like a week or two, and it's like time for the next one. To the point where it's like now it's like, okay, I'm done getting you kindergarten workbooks. We're getting you first grade workbooks because maybe that will be a little bit more challenging to you. Maybe that'll be a little bit harder. Maybe I can push you at home, not a lot, but a little bit to where it's a little bit of a challenge for you, to where it takes fills up some of that time for you.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like I found so my turning point was around like freshman sophomore year. That's when I really like picked up the ball and like you said, started bringing home better remarks. And I just found that sticking to a schedule, you know those really good teachers and mentors that I had going throughout that time in my life really helped me set up these core values that help me succeed, like self-govern, so my parents didn't really have to worry about me anymore. And it feels good, dude, when you're a teenager like that, even transitioning into a young adult, once you get into college, it feels good to have a routine, to stick to it, to, set your goals, but, is it a good thing to be putting on my first grader? I'm not sure it is, because that's what comes with such a high workload is them having to manage stress. And it's like they're still trying to figure everything out. So I'm I'm really against it in elementary schools. I don't think there should be standardized testing.
No, I don't think standardized testing should be part of it. And I also agree with what you said there. Like when I got older, especially when I moved in with my dad and lived with my dad for the back, 3/4 of high school and whatnot, I had like so much more autonomy to like do me and be me. Because all he said was, as long as you pass your classes and you communicate with me where you're going to be and you're safe and you stay out of trouble and you go to practice and you attend all your extracurricular activities that you agree to, we're not going to have no problems. And so I did. I got my grades, attended practice, never missed a practice, never missed school, never made BS excuses, none of that. I had the autonomy. That's what I try to, give back to my kids. Kids now, it's like, okay, I'm going to give it to you. You need to do it. This is your general expectation. And it's hard because it's like I don't necessarily agree with homework at kindergarten
Yeah, dude, I don't agree
or in
with it
elementary in
in
elementary
elementary school
school.
at all. Like,
Yeah, no, I
on top of
agree.
that, I mean, once you get into middle school and high school, bullying, it's a thing, but in elementary school, it's the worst for sure.
Oh,
Like
100%.
young kids are the meanest.
Oh,
like
yeah.
like when we were setting up for the podcast
Oh,
today, I
this
made
is
a little comment
great.
to my daughter. I said, "Oh, you're getting a big tummy. You got to cut it out." And she goes, "Well, you have a bigger one." And just like
I
snap right back at me.
died,
I'm like,
dude.
"Oh,
I died.
I forgot. I forgot. These guys have no filter."
Zero filter. And we talked about it, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about just like body issues, self love, accepting yourself. Like kids understand like what they're doing. They understand their bodies. They understand what they're wearing. It's no secret to them, and so it's crazy. Um,
Yeah, man. I mean, but it's like just that instance alone, like me throwing a jab at her being able to catch it and throw a jab back. That's like in my mind, that's what you need to be teaching your kid is like how to, because that's a part of social life. You know what I mean? You
mm-hmm.
have to be able to take jokes or take criticism, take whatever, and be able to use it. You know what I mean? And in that situation, it's lighthearted, but what if it's a kid that's bullying them? If your kid already understands, okay, if this kid's coming to school and bullying me, taking time out of their day to do negative things to me, if they can articulate and understand, oh, it's because they're going through something or something's going wrong with their life outside of this, things would be so much better, dude. Like you would make a big difference in your community, just like having 3, 4, 5 kids in a classroom like that.
Yeah, just kids who are empathetic and compassionate and don't want to just throw it right back because their feelings are hurt, but they're empathetic to the point where it's like, okay, I know it's not personal. I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to cry about it. Yeah, it sucks. It's not nice, but you have more going on in your life than I have going on in my life. And even for adults, for parents, that's super hard as we get older. It's not as hard for men because that's just how men talk to each other. We talk to each other in a way it's like we know when it's meant to be a jab and an attack to a point where it's not, ho, 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 you're so funny, dude. Here, it's right back to you. Like as dudes, we know that it's much more common for women because it doesn't come across that way to where it's more, what'd you say, Becky? Oh my gosh, you SULT, get out.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's like it's I think it's a basic life skill, and honestly, it I really wish they would make more of an emphasis on things like that in elementary school. I mean, obviously, we need to learn our basic arithmetic, but it should be a time where we're teaching our young children what it's like to be in a social environment, what it's like
mm-hmm.
to, things that are going to help them grow. And then later on in middle school, high school, then you get into, more diverse ideas, if you want to discuss different things. But how can you, it's just like building a house. How can you build a strong house with a weak foundation? You can't.
You can't. No, you can't. I mean, that's even biblical. You can't do it. You can't build a house on a sand. You have to build your house on a rock on a strong foundation. And confronting bullies, it looks so many different ways. In elementary school, we definitely want to, make sure our kids are tough to the point where if something physical is happening to them, they know if it happens to them first, they can retaliate appropriately. At least for me, I believe that. But to where they can calmly have that conversation and be like, yo, man, look, or whoever, I get it. You're upset about something. I don't know what I did to you, but let's stop this. This isn't cool. Stop talking to me like that. And just to stand up for themselves and to confront the situation and to put a stop to it, because teachers won't always get involved unless, we talked about this last week with Jason. Shout out to Save His Family on the Block. But, it's to the point where if it's happened to your kid repeatedly and your kid's trying their part at school and it's still happening, there's a part where you, the parent, have to become a major, as he said, pain in the ass to the school saying, hey, what the heck's going on here? Why isn't little Tommy, why doesn't he stop bothering my little Sally? This needs to stop. And the one thing, especially when it's boy to a girl, the one thing that drives me crazy that all parents of boys need to fix and snub for the rest of time is, oh, it's just because he's a boy, or that's what boys do toward girls, and that behavior, especially like us having girls and that are growing up, because it's not appropriate behavior, and it should not be justified by a teacher or anyone within a school to say, hey, look, he's just doing that because he's a boy. That's just what boys do. It's like, no, like that boy is getting away with, harassing my daughter for whatever reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lillian, my daughter's the biggest in her class. So, I mean, she's the kind giant, so she doesn't, I haven't had to deal with that yet. There has been, little boys that come and, pick on her and nitpick with her, but I've taught her to, just never mind it. They're just being boys. That kind of stuff, yes. But when it comes to harassment, like physically, like pushing a kid, or like, like just making fun of them, or like constantly picking on them just because you don't like them, like that's a sign that, there's a something within them that they're not comfortable with. That they
Yeah,
can
no,
they can
agreed.
be vulnerable to.
Yeah, no, agreed. Because like you said, there's a certain line to where that's a boy behavior, to where it's like a little bit more physical compared to a girl, where it's not going to be as physical. But there's certain things that could be said, like hair pulling and touching and things like that, that are shouldn't be justified. When it
Yeah.
crosses that gender, and it goes both ways. It goes boys to girls, girls to boys. It's the same way either way. But like you just said, it's something in that kid that we have to teach our kid to recognize. Like, look, it's you. You don't take that out on me. Don't direct it to me. And as our kids get older, we have to teach them to say, "Hey, look, I don't know why you're taking this out on me. I'm sorry for whatever you're going through in your life. If you need to talk to someone, I really trust Mrs. So and so. I think she would be someone great you can talk to, or Mr. So and so would be really is a great listener. I think you could talk to them about what's going on." Kind of thing. Just teaching our kids to redirect it. I think redirection is so important. You got to teach our kids how to redirect it back to that person, and then also offer a way for them to help and be kind. To go above and beyond, which isn't really that above and beyond. It's pretty basic and just being a nice person, a good human.
One thing I will say though, as much as I and you and I encourage like you said, for it to be peaceful and to be able to talk it out. My kids for sure have the green light, to protect themselves.
100%.
And like this, very soon I'm gonna have my daughter start her first MMA classes. We're gonna go into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and so 100% gonna have the green light to use those techniques to defend herself. But it's a big, big, big point to make that it's up to me to explain to her and to really ingrain it in her brain that that doesn't come out until it's the last option. Like
Yeah,
it's not something that's gonna be plan A ever or plan B.
exactly. No, I agree. And that's always going to be back there. It needs to be in the back pocket. It needs to be in the bag of tricks. But first is going to be to, try to redirect it, try to help them help themselves in another way. Because like you're saying, it's not them, it's something influencing them, and the kids are so young, they're so vulnerable, they're so confused, they're going through so much that they don't understand at any given time. Like I taught, at this church program that I take my oldest daughter to. I work with the third through sixth graders, and a few months ago, I talked about divorce, and it was insane just how aware third through sixth graders were of like their feelings about divorce, other feelings about divorce, how they wanted to help their friends who were going through it. Like some of the questions were like, what can I do to help, or and it just kept coming back to just be there, be supportive, care, and don't overstep. Offer your support, offer to help them, offer to talk, different things like that. It was really cool. But kids are aware, they're smart. Our kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for on any given day.
Yeah, man, and when you encourage an environment like that, it's a lot easier for a kid to break down a wall and to make a friend out of that enemy. That would have been their lifelong elementary school bully. It's a way that we can make these small little changes that affect in the long run a lot.
100%. Like I like looking back, like thinking about it right now in this moment, like I wish I would have known or been taught this skill growing up to where I could have said something to my elementary school bully, who was my bully for years. Um, I just hated the dude like for a long time until like I realized, he had a lot going on. Like his home life was a mess. Like looking back, like he had a lot going on, and he was just a product of his environment. His environment was chaotic. It wasn't supportive. It was inconsistent. It was really hard. Like his front yard was a mess. His house was like the worst one on the block. Like he just had a lot going on like at home. Like it was bad. He didn't have many friends, and I wish I would have been able to say, hey, you know, even like however that would have came out when I'm like a little kid, but like, look, it's not me that you're upset at. I get it. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to take this anymore. But can I help you? Can I talk to you? Can I be there for you? Can I be a friend? And that's what it turns into. It can turn into a lifelong friend because you took the time to stop and listen and to take them to, your coach that you mentioned earlier, that really good coach that you have saying, "Hey, look, you know, Johnny's struggling. I really trust you. You've been there for me. You've talked to me. Can you talk to Johnny? Can you talk to Justin and, pull them and talk to them because I think they really need it." And that's another thing that we can teach our kids to do on the back end. When they go in, not tattle, but when they report bullying, they say, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, so and so has been saying some really mean, hurtful things to me. I'm not upset and hurt by it. They're hurtful, but I'm not hurt by them. I think they just have a lot going on at home. Can one of the teachers, like maybe this one or this one, go and talk to them? Try to get that intervention because that intervention is so important for kids because kids in that situation that are the bullies, their families, they're not going to ask for that intervention because they've likely probably already given up, which is awful, but true. It happens to the point where they just need to kind of have someone ask for them. And then hopefully that teacher listens to our children who are coming out of a place of sincerity and empathy and compassion. And they're like, the teachers listen and be like, yeah, no, yeah, let me help, or the coach or whoever. There's some teachers, they're not so good. They probably won't care. They probably won't do anything. However, I do believe there's more good teachers than bad teachers because teaching is a career you have to be passionate about and care about. Hence why I
Dude,
didn't do it.
let me also shed light on something. The way if we keep things the way they are and the way they've always been, it all of this compounds, right? So if you're not having a great family life at home, you go to school, you pick on kids, uh, you know, little Johnny goes and tells the teacher that you're picking on him. That teacher doesn't care. That compounds more. And then eventually, the good kid that was trying to make a difference doesn't have any support, doesn't have any backup. His parents can't do anything about it. So now he falls into the peer pressure and ends up joining their bad group. You know what I mean? Trying to fit in with those bad people.
Yeah, man, it
Ends
snowballs.
up, you know what I'm talking about? It's
It
a compounding thing.
snowballs. Yeah,
It's
like
and it's something to be said about the adults too,
oh,
like
100%.
the teachers who don't care and don't like aren't in the field for what they're doing and more for the job security and career. Like,
Right? Like they're not really in it for the money.
yeah, it because you don't
Um,
make great money. It's more job security. You get the summertime off, you get the winter time off. That's the big pluses of that job.
you get the
But
benefits, stuff like that.
if you're not looking at, oh, I'm impacting the lives of the next generation. If you're not looking at it that way, you're doing a big disservice to everyone. Like
No,
you've got to go in every day looking not to not not sound like an inspirational movie whatever, but
not
you're
doing
not
anyone any favors.
yeah, you're not helping at all if you don't go into make a difference every
No,
single day that you're at school, even if it's not in your classroom. You know what I'm talking about? Like you can
I
you can
agree.
be that teacher that everyone goes to because we had multiple of those at the high school where I went to. It's just
Hmm.
like these beacons of just knowledge and willingness to give themselves up for children. Like
Agreed.
just pour into them, and it's like we need more of that in our communities.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. And it's crazy to think about because there's some teachers on TikTok that I follow. I love teacher TikTok. I think teacher TikTok is great. There's some that are really funny. There's some that aren't funny. There's some that are just kind of all over the place. But there's this one teacher, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he just shows like real life examples of kids and he notices kids. He pays attention to his kids to the point where it's like, you know, a kid's taking an extra snack or two and putting it in their backpack. And then he says, "Hey, I noticed you taking some extra snacks home. Is that or putting them in your backpack? Is everything okay?" And the kid says, "Yeah, I'm just trying to grab a couple extra snacks for my brother at home. We don't have a lot of food right now." And he's like, "Okay, let me work with the lunch lady and the lunch staff to try to see if we can get you a little bit extra food to send home. For the next few days to help." Or it's like, "Hey, there was some shoes that were just super worn out from a kid, and it's like they were worn out at the beginning of the school year, and they're just more worn now, and same shoes, same stuff. Same examples like that. That are just real life. That he's always paying attention to those small, minute details. And there's teachers out there who are like that. There's so many of them. I believe there's more of those like that than there aren't. And we just have to teach our kids who are fortunate to not be in that situation to also recognize those kids and to recognize the kids who are bullies, but also struggling that maybe, starting to snowball, whether they had a slip in confidence because they were getting bullied because they're getting their shoes compared or their clothes compared for other kids for whatever reason. And then the peer pressure comes in and they indulge in, the bad group and they go down the path that just leads them to no good, whatever.
Also, this brings us to another point. Um, don't be afraid to let your kid be the one without the hippest clothing, or the newest shoes, or in the newest style. Um, it's not a competition.
It's
Like,
not.
you're doing yourself a disservice trying to keep up with other families and other kids. Like, you're only making your child worse. Like, if
Oh,
if you're having to sacrifice out of your budget for something else just to try and get your kid looking good, like, and don't get me wrong, I fully encourage, if you can afford it, do it. But
do it
if
within your
not,
means, 100%.
don't worry about it. It's not a huge deal. Like, there's so many different things that your child, you can encourage them about, than just the way, the clothes that they wear, or the style that they have. Like, you can encourage them to be themselves through anything.
100%. And you can, I think what matters most for parents, the average parent, is that you send your kid to school with clean clothes, clean shoes, and a smile on their face, and just a happy kid that's
1000%, dude.
filled with empathy, that's
1000%.
compassionate, that's caring, and looks out for others and cares more about others than themselves. I think those are the things that matter. As long as your kid's happy and is excited to go to school and is happy with the clothes that they have, and they have gratitude, they have a basic sense of gratitude because of you instilling that in them, that they're just grateful that you love them, that they're loved, that they're cared about, that they get to go to school, see their friends, have fun, do whatever it is, learn. They're excited about learning. All these things, that's so much more than any school staff member will ever ask for. Because school staff doesn't
Yeah.
care about clothes.
And it goes back to what we said before. Send a good person to school. Worry about that. Don't worry about sending the coolest kid to school. Don't worry about sending, the don't worry about the image that you're putting your kid, don't worry about
Yeah,
that. Send in a good kid.
yeah. Because all you're doing as a parent at that point, when you're just going out of your way to make them look good, best dressed, best clothes, best brands, whatever, all you're doing is creating a entitled. All you're doing really in reality, and this is going to sound hard for some parents who are listening to this possibly, and I don't love saying this, but you're creating an entitled narcissist of a
Yeah.
child
No, for sure. And
that you're
it's
not
sad to
dealing with.
see that's like 70 to 80% of all the kids that go to my daughter's school. And mind you, like, I am not bragging. I am so grateful, but myself and my wife put together, like, I'm pretty sure in this area that we're in, we're way better well off than the rest of these people in this area.
Oh yeah, you guys do very well
But
for yourself,
you
but
you
at the
would
same time,
never
it's like
know it. You would never
no,
know it by the way my kids dress.
no, because
Like,
what you guys do is like, yes, you guys have the money. If you really wanted to, you could. But
yeah,
the thing is, you don't. You let them wear what they want to wear, or at least for your oldest, you let her wear what she wants to wear, what she's comfortable in, what she's confident
yeah,
in, and then those clothes are probably way cheaper because they're not name
dude.
brand, they're not
When
off the rack at Nike. But you get
when
to
we
use
go
that
shopping
money. You get to
for
use that
when we
money in other places.
yeah, dude, when we go shopping for school, my daughter's picking a shirt that has a cat on it because it has a cat on it, not because it's a Nike shirt, or it's
Yeah,
like, my daughter's still a kid. She's
like
not
yeah,
worried about, like, she hasn't been exposed to that yet. And I think that's how all kids should be. Like, what I hate that I don't see kids running around with, like, Spider-Man shirts, or, like, you know what I mean? Like, the cheesy,
yeah, like
corny, like,
stupid printed
yeah,
T-shirts, screen
like,
tees.
I remember that was me and all of my buddies during school, and it was like,
Same,
everybody would rag on you and give you crap about it, but you like it. You know what I mean?
dude.
That's
My
that's all
freaking
stuff that you're
WWE shirt with
into,
John
and
Cena's freaking tight, dude.
exactly.
Get
And
out
then
of
you
here.
find your tribe. You know what I mean?
You
That
find your people. You find your
yeah,
friends. You find your real friends. Um, But no, like no, my daughter's the same way. She's like, oh, I want to wear a Pikachu shirt. You know,
Yeah, dude. It's
like
like
dope. Wear your Pikachu shirt, kid. Wear it
I
with pride.
see time after time after time after time where it's like little Johnny goes to school head to toe in Jordan gear. For sure, I know like his outfit's like $200-300
Oh yeah, dude.
just to go and get it the same amount of dirty that my daughter's gonna get it dirty, and then I can turn around
Then that parent's gonna be mad at little Johnny for getting his really nice clothes
exactly,
dirty. Blame him
and
for being
then
a kid. He's gonna hate his life, resent his parents, go and do fentanyl or whatever. Who knows?
it compounds. It compounds.
Compounds. It's so, but
But like it's like don't stop trying to keep up with people. Like live within your means and try and encourage different things that people can't take away from your kid. Knowledge. Knowledge is something that no one can ever take away
mm-hmm.
from your kid, yourself, your spouse, anyone. The more you know, the better off you are.
Fact.
And whether it's knowledge about things or feelings or whatever it is. That's something that nobody can ever take away from you.
Oh, 100%. Along with knowledge, gratitude. Teach your kid just to be grateful for what they have. And like if you teach your kid from really young on, like they're just, you know, grateful that they have these things, that there's other people who don't even have what they have at the basic level. Like teach like your daughter. This is just an example for the people listening, but let's say that you're in that position to where you can't even afford the cat shirt. You can then teach your daughter, hey, you know, remember just, be grateful for that you have this cat shirt, not in like a mean way, but express gratitude for having these things because there's other people who can't even afford to have that cat shirt. They have to get the $1, $2, $3 plain tees that are really boring, not fun, because that's all they can get. And this is them getting this shirt's like a treat for them. Like, so there's ways to teach that gratitude in really simple ways. You can teach them to be empathetic, to put themselves in other people's shoes, and to not take things personally, and to be thick-skinned, which is something that's not heard of anymore hardly, which is sad. But you can teach them to have a thick skin to where they don't take it personally, but they have empathy, and then they want to get that other child help and help them overcome whatever they're struggling with. Last, you can teach them
Yeah,
just to be
and
compassionate, just to be nice.
you know what, dude, and it goes to say, it goes without saying. I mean, your kid's gonna love you so much for that. Maybe not right in that moment, but the older they get, the more they realize they're gonna be so grateful that my mom, my dad, my parents, whoever did their best to try and keep me happy. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Your your child's only gets one childhood.
Yep.
Make it the best that you can. And if that's sacrificing on designer clothes or whatever, do it. Don't ever look back on it. Don't regret it.
Because I promise you, like, no one's gonna care. Like, no good person or anyone that you work with, hardly, unless you work in fashion or something, probably a different story. But if you're working a regular job, blue collar job, whatever you're doing for work, outside of fashion, no one's probably gonna care if you're sending like, oh, I'm sending little Johnny in head to toe in Jordan gear this week. What are you sending your kid in? I don't know, whatever the heck they picked off the rack at the Walmart. Um, it's like,
Yeah, dude.
oh, either way, both those people should say, oh, that's dope. Is that what they wanted? Is that what they like?
Yeah.
Or is that what
And
you
by all means, I mean, I know we're trashing that, but at the same time, if your kid's confident, your kid is, you know,
miles ahead of that kid?
knows that that's what he wants. Cool, man. By all means.
No,
But
no, I meant that in like a positive way. Like
yeah,
both those people saying where they got their stuff from or what they're sending their kid to school in. Like I meant both those ends. You
No, no,
know,
and that's what I mean. Like, if you wanna be extravagant, you wanna be, super high end clothes, that's great, man. That's awesome, and that's something to be proud of. Like when you can be the fly guy at school, that's something to hold on to. That becomes your personality. You become, the good looking kid, the nice dressing kid. There's nothing wrong with that, but you still need to teach them that you know you're lucky. That so like Jill said, like to have gratitude for it.
hmm
And it's like to not put down that other kid that doesn't have it, to not, flaunt it and make other kids feel bad with it. But, if you can teach your kid empathy and I've even seen videos where like kids are giving away all their like expensive stuff to kids that are less fortunate, like stuff like that, that goes miles in a
dude,
community.
because
Like,
kids have such big hearts, but a lot of it's natural. But I'm telling you, there's the whole argument of nature versus nurture, and not all of it just comes from nature. A lot of it comes from how they're nurtured and how they're raised and the examples they see. I will always 100% of the time, almost probably about 95% of the time, I will always go with the nurture side of the argument, just because it's kids are a reflection and a sponge of what they see, what they hear, and they reflect what they see the people that they love and trust do most.
exactly. And, it's like if you want your kid to be that compassionate, giving, thoughtful person, you have to also be that person. Like you
Mm-hmm.
have to set that precedent. You can't just, you know, I really hate that saying like do what I say, not as I do. Like I really hate it.
Yeah, no, I agree, because it's like you're basically teaching your kid to be a
You're being a
hypocrite,
hypocrite. Yeah.
and you're teaching your kid to do the same when you could just, set a good example and be a good example instead of be not. It's so much easier to have them do as you do, because that's what they're really going to do, because actions will always speak louder than words in a child's eyes. Like,
Yeah,
children
and
will
I
always
think
remember who like shows up. They will always remember who was there. They will always remember what they did. They rarely remember what they said, but they'll remember what someone did for them, how they did it for them, when they did it for them. And yeah, it's the actions are way more powerful.
yeah, I 100% agree. Um and another point, like with my daughter being so young and yours too, yours is in kindergarten. On top of all this that we just mentioned, they're still getting used to not being around you, and they're still getting used to having a schedule of going to school and they're homesick. They're learning to be independent and to be on their own. It's something we forget about and we get so excited about, but you know, it's something kids deal with a lot. And mine alone has told me countless times, I don't want to go to school. I miss you guys. Or excuse me, I want to spend more time with you guys at home because school is hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's you got to be on the lookout for that and encourage, just give them a knowledge of, it's something that they have to do but that they can enjoy doing.
Exactly. And you got to give them reassurance. Like, I understand. Like, you got to validate those feelings. Like, I understand. I get it. But you only have this many more days left this week, and then you get to spend this much time at home and hang out, or you only this afternoon we're doing this. You kind of almost have to give them what they need to look forward to, when they have those homesick feelings. Because yeah, I mean, it happens for every kid, no matter how old you get. Like, even when I was in high school, there's like, man, I wish I was just at home and kicking it or chilling or whatever.
Yeah,
And
and don't get this wrong, uh or don't take this the wrong way, but my whole thing with parenting, like a lesson that I learned, came from when I trained my first dog, actually. And it's the whole incentive thing, right? Dogs are very incentive based. The
Yep,
way
they
you
are.
train them very quickly is incentive based.
Mhm.
Your kids are the same way. You have to give them something to work for. They're
Yep.
little U's, you know what I mean? They just don't have anything to do. They're learning. Their whole job is to learn.
Exactly.
So, you have to give them incentives to want to do it.
But you have to also give them the right incentive for the right thing. This is one thing I learned in my dog training when we're going back to that. There's different values of treats. Like you have your really basic
Exactly.
treats that are just like for like sits and the common stuff. You have your intermediate treats that are for a little bit harder tricks, things that you don't do often. Then you have your high value treats for things that are super rare, like when you need to have your dog stop when they're running away from you, like they get off the leash or whatever, they get out and you call their name and they stop. Like that's a high value treat. That's a high value situation. And and that's important knowing that as a parent, like, okay, what reward does this equal? And how can I know like them doing their homework? That's just,
Show's
could be a
definitely gonna
basic
get
praise.
canceled. We're gonna get
Probably.
canceled for comparing our kids to dogs, but
Probably, but we're speaking metaphorically, I think.
yeah, no,
Simile
I
metaphor.
think it's very similar, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Don't
as,
call
as
PETA
crazy
on
as it
us.
sounds. Crazy as it sounds, I mean, that just shows how much we care about our dogs. But um, I think you've got to you're like we said last week, it's the best job you can do as a parent is be there. You
100%.
know, that's the only thing you can do. And all these resources and all these things that we're talking about don't matter if you're not there. You have to be the one that introduces all of this, or it means nothing.
100%. And there's so much that we can do, and a lot of it starts at home. Pretty much all of it starts at home, to where you're talking to your kids about their fears. You're creating a positive environment at home to where it's positive and supportive, and where your kid knows their priorities, whether it's studying or whether it's other things. They know their priorities on a daily basis. Like, to have that schedule built in and created, because you've helped them create that like schedule, and it's changed over time because it's always going to change. Activities are going to fall off, new activities are going to come in, and everything else. Like, maybe your daughter won't be interested in um, martial arts in a year from now. Maybe that'll be
Yeah.
replaced with something else.
Yeah, and and that's 100% fine. And um I find it something very important also is, you know, be engaged with their studies,
Hmm.
and also, be a resource for their school. Be a resource for their teacher. If their teacher needs you to, donate resources, or needs volunteers for the fair, or whatever it is, be that. Make time for it. Set aside time to do that for your kids. Not only is it going to allow them to participate, it's going to allow them to see, like, wow, you know my dad got to, like, just recently they had a fair and I was able to volunteer. And the whole time I kept hearing Lillian, like, yeah, that's my dad, that's my dad, he's working the booth, go see him, he'll give you candy or whatever. Like,
Right? Yeah.
they're so proud, dude. They're so proud of you
Yeah.
when you're that kind of parent. Don't
Exactly.
just be
And
the drop off my kid. Oh, my kid should know this for their homework. I don't need to help them.
100%. You have to be involved. And that's something that Jason and I talked about last week when we talked about, like, one of the biggest things you can do to keep your kids safe at school and safe in general and these different like places they go is to volunteer and to give up your time to help with setup, takedown, or whatever, because that does so many things. It gives your kid visibility that you're there for them. You care about them. You care about these things that they care about for school. That you care about school enough to you're going to be there to help the school with things. And on top of that, the school staff is then going to know who you are. And so then if there's an issue, the school staff is likely going to be more responsive to you in a positive way to you having if Lillian's having an issue and you're like, hey, you know, vice principal so and so, they'd be like, oh, hey, how's it going? And you'd be like, good, good, but hey, this is going on with Lillian, blah 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 blah. They'd be like, oh, thank you for letting me know. Thank you for addressing it with me. Their teacher hasn't brought this up to me, but I'm gonna bring this up with them later today. I'll address it with them and talk to them and see if they have any solutions. It's gonna be such a more positive interaction to the point where it's like there's gonna be the other end of the spectrum, Karen, who never volunteers, who never helps out, who always complains, calls the school about every little issue, to where the school is less likely to want to help her kid because it's like, but they know when you call, they'd be like, oh, yeah, he helps us. We know who he is. We know that he actually cares.
Yeah,
And
and for those of you that think that's unfair and that, that's special treatment, it's not.
it's not.
If it's not, if you're a part of a tribe and you're a contributing member, it's only right that the tribe takes care of you, right? And
It's the
so
tone
it's
that you set.
exactly, if you don't
Like,
like it, you know,
change it.
change it, be a part
If
of
you,
it.
of course, there's not always going to be ways that you can. If you don't have the time to physically be there, but like you said on the back end, there's different ways. Like the teacher, like every teacher now has a way to communicate with parents. Via like some
Oh
kind of
yeah, dude,
chat app or whatever,
we have
emails.
Peach Jar here,
Yeah, we
and
have
I'm
freaking
sure every
Seesaw
school,
here.
yeah, every school has one.
Every
So
school,
there's no excuse for you to say, oh, my kid's school doesn't participate in that. That's horse crap. If
or we need this, and they send home stuff all the time. We need, you know, donations for this basket. One thing back in the fall that we did for my oldest daughter's kindergarten thing, they had like this big raffle thing and whatever, is that I volunteered my time because I knew I could be there to help out with takedown, setup, whatever they needed. I could help. I could physically be there. But my ex, she couldn't be there. However, she could donate items to a raffle basket. So she donated items for the raffle basket. There's different ways that you can help. It doesn't always have to be physically being there and giving up time, but you can help. There are ways to do it. So the only excuse is you not wanting to. And if you really want to and you really want to have this special treatment, quote unquote, that's really not that special. Um, like you said, you contribute to a tribe. You take care of your tribe. Tribe takes care of you. Make an effort. You have to put that effort in if you want to have that effort back. It's just like you get out of the universe what you put into the universe. If you put good out, you get good back. If you get bad back, you get bad back. It's how life is, you know.
yeah, dude, and it goes hand in hand with your status in the community, and a lot of people will tell you that that doesn't matter, but let me tell you, the few places I've lived in my life, my family has always known all of the other families that live on our block. We've always been in touch with the people that live next door to us.
Mm,
Like my father specifically has always been like that guy on the block that can fix everything, or like, what I mean, like just that figure, that people know that he's there.
mm.
When you have stuff like that around your community, it becomes more safe. Your child becomes more safe.
Oh, 100%. Especially when you know your neighbors and your kids know your neighbors
Yeah,
and your kids know that if I'm in trouble, I can trust this person.
yeah,
Like, it's a big help. It's a help to everyone. It's huge. And, that doesn't change as they get older. These skills that we instill young help them as they get older. They don't fall off.
yeah. I honestly, I all these problems that we've ever talked about on this show, having to do with like not just children's culture, but all the negative stuff that's going on in the world. It's because we don't have community anymore. We
None.
don't. It's not preached to us anymore. And for our kids, for my kids at least, like I'm willing to sacrifice my time and my effort into something that a lot of people think is useless. Like a lot of people don't see the sense of community as something that's necessary. But you know, I
No, I agree.
it's like I always say, like your tribe. This is your tribe. You live here. This is your tribe.
Yeah, no, agreed, 100%. And we touched on that a couple weeks ago. Helping our kids find their tribe, and there's so much. This is just what our kids are dealing with at the elementary level. As our kids get older, they get into middle school, high school. These areas become less, but they become way more profound. Like they become deeper. Like, yes, there's less area of worry because they kind of have some of these skills. They've mastered some of these areas. But there's new things. New things always come. Whether it's mental health awareness, being aware of their own mental health, and helping them through their mental health issues. Because there's gonna come, with as they get older, they're gonna learn new things. Social media is still there. That's a big one. That's the top of the list. Even in elementary school, but they're gonna be more self-aware of their mental health, where it comes to depression, anxiety, intrusive thoughts, impulsive thoughts, impulse control, um, things like that. Their self image, their confidence, substances are going to be offered to them, drugs, alcohol, different things. There's going to be school, what comes after school, what's next for them, their whole future, everything.
Yeah,
There's less issues, but they're so much deeper. And that's why it's so important now for parents, especially for us, parents our age, young children, elementary school kids in general, K through 6, that we help our kids get these skills now
hmm
and master them so that when they get older, those lesser issues, the less amount of issues that are deeper, aren't as deep, and they have an understanding of themselves enough to ask for help when they need it, to process complex emotions, to understand social media, to understand bullying, to understand substances. And it really comes down to having a transparent relationship with them and a trusting relationship to where they know that you're going to be there for them, you're going to care for them, and they can come to you when they need you.
yeah, and the way I visualize it and makes sense to me is like elementary school. You're building their toolbox, right? You're helping them figure out and arm themselves with a good set of tools. Middle school, it's refining that toolbox and somewhat using it with new responsibility and more activities to do. And then in high school, it's almost their full blown you know self-governing and getting ready to enter the world. And then college is like where you're picking what you want to do and you're specializing in it. You're learning to specialize in it. It's like these stages, your students less likely to be successful if at that first stage they never got those tools that they needed.
No, agreed. Agreed. No, I mean that's what it comes down to. It comes down to every single parent, every single child, no matter the situation, to help create a good human, to help create a good child who, at the end of the day, at the end of it all, when they get to that end phase, that high school graduation, they're compassionate, they're empathetic, they're caring, they're compassionate, and they have a good head on their shoulders, and they're a decent human being going out into this great, big, scary world that hopefully still exists by the time our kids get there.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when we get there.
So, all right, man. Any last thoughts for our listeners here today?
Ah, yeah, man. Enjoy the ride. I'm barely into mine, but I've learned from a lot of older older people that have gone through this journey many times. Um, to just enjoy it. I've learned to love it, enjoy the process. There's so much fun in it, and make it your own.
100%. Well, man, this has been fun. We have We're probably going to stay on this for what? Probably 1 or 2 more weeks. We have a couple guests coming on. Next couple weeks should be a lot of fun to where we um, get into the physical side of some of these issues and talking to our kids about you know physical like discipline and like strength and things like that, while also at the same time, hopefully another one that we're going to have on here soon is someone to talk about the nutrition things that we feed our kids, that's just very passionate about the food that we're giving to our kids, because it's also a huge one, because food and balancing our kids' gut health is just so important to them also being successful. So make sure you stay tuned in. If you missed last week's episode where we had Jason Brick on from Save His Family on the Block, you got to listen to the end of that episode. He gave out a very cool promo for half off one of his programs on Save His Family on the Block. But you're going to have to listen toward the very end or fast forward through, don't matter, um, to get that discount, how you can get that discount for a safety plan. It was really cool talking to him last week. So many just awesome things we talked about between like gun safety and school safety and so many things we touched on, and it's been fun, and we're so thankful for these first 10,000. Here's to the next 90,000 plus to get us to 100,000, and we're excited. We can't wait to see what this year has to come. It's still early, but man, it's so far so great. So thank you guys all for listening. We appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Peace out.
Hey, Hey, you, are you still here with me? Thank you so much for listening all the way to the very end. Definitely appreciate it. Don't forget to leave 5 stars, leave a comment, leave a review. Head over to YouTube, subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social medias, even TikTok. And all of those links, plus every single deal that we have in affiliation, you can find in our link tree. Just by going to the show notes, clicking the link tree link, it really does help us just with likes, 5 stars, subscribes, all of that. It's a great way to support us, and it really helps us keep going. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Can't wait to be with you next week.